The debate is 2 days away, bro. Obviously, Tuesday's gonna be a big day. Trump doesn't actually do real debates. He doesn't. Like, the debate against Biden, okay, was just an expanded opportunity for him to talk about his handful of political points. And then he tries to sort of capitalize in the moment on any way to demean his opponent. When he finds an opportunity to get in there and to like start the gaslighting or take advantage of somebody's misstep, he's actually pretty good about that. So that's kind of like what his game is. Now, what's going to be intriguing to me is if she can rattle him. Because you remember the NABJ? Remember when Rachel Scott went out there and right off the bat challenged Donald Trump with his racist comments and the birther controversy and all that, and like Trump got rattled like right away? I would love to see Kamala Harris find a way to come out right off the bat and rattle him. That would be really nice to see. If she could come out in a way where she gets under his skin on some of his biggest talking points, that would be huge. It could be about killing the border bill. Like, there's obviously the rape. The felonies are kind of challenging because that plays into his whole, oh, it's a witch hunt. It's a political thing. But the sexual abuse is a possibility. I think it should be around the border. I think it should be around the border and maybe even around Afghanistan, because those are two things that he has extraordinarily sort of sat on, hammering away at the Afghanistan withdrawal and her being the last person in the room, right? That's part one. And the other one would be the border. Now, those are two of his biggest points. If she could get him rattled and backed into a corner on his policies, that would be epic. He would be scuffed. I would love to see that. And I wonder if she has any handlers that are talking about that, because you will notice, guys, she's done this recently. This was yesterday. Statement on the anniversary of Trump inviting the Taliban to Camp David, right? 5 years ago today, President Donald Trump revealed in a series of tweets that he had invited the Taliban to Camp David just days before the anniversary, the September 11 attacks. Now, there's a big thing here of Trump like making nice with the Taliban, cutting, 5,000 Taliban people free, renegotiating this Afghanistan deal. You see what I'm saying? She released this yesterday. So she may well be thinking about this, about like holding his feet to the flame for some of this shit. Trump pursued these secret talks with the Taliban without involving the Afghan government or America's international allies, and it upended painstaking negotiations aimed at ending America's longest war. Trump subsequently cut a secret deal directly with the Taliban that freed 5,000 imprisoned fighters, allowing them to return to the battlefield to regain strength and put the Taliban in its strongest military position in 20 years. It also set a virtually impossible deadline for a U.S. withdrawal, gave permission for the Taliban to attack U.S. troops if the timeline wasn't met. In short, Trump gave the Taliban everything they wanted. The great negotiator, right? His own former national security advisor called the deal a surrender agreement. Despite the deal's drastic implications for U.S. military strategy and the safety of U.S. troops and allies, Trump left the Biden-Harris administration with zero plans for an orderly withdrawal. Only a dangerous, costly mess. Kind of sounds like he handled the pandemic too, actually, right? Trump even bragged that the Biden-Harris administration couldn't stop the process he started. Donald Trump wants America to forget that he had 4 years to end America's longest war, but failed to do it. All he did was cut a secret deal with the Taliban that put our troops in harm's way and set the stage for the sudden collapse of the Afghan government and the Taliban's forcible takeover. Now, the timing of this, I'm wondering if she's going to try to use this to get him shaken up at the debate. When I saw this release the other day, I was like, dude, this could be good. This is sort of what I want to see. Instead of like getting into the he said, she said, where you sort of get back and forth with your arguments. Like, obviously, you know she's going to go after him on reproductive rights. Hopefully she challenges that whole ridiculousness of executing the baby. That is really important. I hope she challenges him, obviously, on Project 2025 and how everybody he works with, everyone in his inner circle is a part of that. But, dude, I want to see her go after him on maybe Afghanistan and definitely the border. I want her to get him to admit that he killed the border bill in order to run on immigration fears. That would be epic if she could get him fumbling on that shit. For her to truly crush this debate, she's got to do more than just be the Democratic attacker, because he calls her comrade Kamala. She's a communist and a Marxist or whatever. So he's going to paint her as this radical left person. She obviously has been painting him as this danger to democracy and the whole Project 2025 and the sexual predator and shit. But I really think if she can put him on his ass, on his home turf, the powerful military, the economy, and the border, those are his things. If she can beat him at his own game and put him on his ass on his own game, she will clean the floor with him. But if she gets into like an argument with him where he's just consistently dismissing her as like a radical lefty and she doesn't exploit his weaknesses, it could be tough. I hope the questions are good. Yeah. So I hope the questions require answers. And I hope there is pushback if there's not an answer. Like, to me, that's a problem. When you have a debate where the moderators are not requiring an answer. I mean, I guess maybe they don't do that because it's up to the audience to decide if they answer the question. But like a lot of these debates, I don't like how they don't require any adherence to the actual question. And they just become these sort of personality contests.
I think we can pretty safely predict that this one is going to matter, largely because voters are still pretty shallow in their impressions of Vice President Harris. She has made a very positive first impression. Her favorable, unfavorable rating is better than Biden's, better than Trump's, better than anybody on either ticket at this point. But those impressions are still pretty shallow. So in many ways, this is as much a job interview for her with this big, broad audience that she's going to have as it is a debate and encounter with the former president.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that former Secretary of State and, of course, former candidate for President Hillary Clinton, who debated Trump, told the New York Times Harris should not be baited. She should bait him. Further on in that piece, we had advisors telling Trump, be happy, Trump. Don't lose your cool. Do you think all of that is good advice on both sides?
Yeah, first of all, when as we said, debates haven't always mattered. Many of them have kind of faded away as soon as they were over. But when they have mattered, it's usually been because they reveal something about the character and the capacity of the candidates.
Absolutely.
More than one side winning an issue argument. Think of Ronald Reagan with There You Go Again in 1980 and kind of dispel.
Yeah, see, that could be another thing, too. Like, if she can look authoritative and powerful while he is like fumbling and meandering, that could be really helpful too.
Sticking to the campaign trail, where he had this to say about his opponent's strategy.
She's right now practicing. Do you know that? She's in Pennsylvania, and she's practicing for the debate. She's locked herself in a room. She's got a lot to learn.
Dude, he's such a dick, bro. She's practicing. He somebody who gets prepared and does the work. He just puts him down because he just gets to show up and fail upward. You know what I mean? That's what's so funny about him, because he can sit there and ramble. Dude, you got to see this, bro. Let me just show you the Trumpian shit. You remember that 2-minute ramble about childcare where Trump said childcare is childcare? You remember that shit? Trump rambles for 2 minutes, gives a non-answer, doesn't say anything. Watch what Newsweek did for Trump, because this is what Trump gets. Trump doesn't have to prepare. Trump doesn't have to do the work, because he gets to fail upward. Look what Newsweek wrote about Donald Trump. Former President Donald Trump was pressed on his plans to address child care costs during an appearance before the Economic Club of New York on Thursday, during which the Republican nominee promoted his fiscal policy as a solution to the rising prices of everyday necessities. When asked if he would commit to prioritizing legislation to make childcare more affordable if reelected to office, Trump told the panel of business leaders that his plans to increase taxes on imports could take care of rising costs like childcare. Childcare is childcare. It's something you have to have in this country, Trump said, who also touted efforts by his daughter Ivanka to address childcare costs during his first presidency. It's a very important issue, Trump continued. This is how they parsed that 2-minute disaster of Trump rambling about tariffs and saying nothing. They picked out take care. Childcare is something you have to have, and it's a very important issue. But you see that? This is what Trump gets. He can go out there and make an ass of himself, say something completely ridiculous with no substance, with no plan, with no skill, with no sense of, incoherent policy or any type of captivating details around the situation. He can just show up and say a bunch of random nonsense, and then some reporter will take like 5 words out of his shit and make it sound like he rose to the occasion. And they do this for him repeatedly. And then Kamala Harris, anytime she speaks, no matter what she says, they're like, ooh, a body language expert says she's not confident. Ooh, she's changed her policy position from, 12 years ago. Yada, yada, yada. Oh, she used the wrong word. And this, though, he gets a back rub, which is why he's making fun of her for preparing. Because who needs to prepare when you can just show up and be terrible and somebody else will do the work for you? And that's what Trump does. He shows up and he's fucking terrible, and then people cover for his ass. It is annoying, bro. If I were her debate strategy, right? I know I said this earlier, but I believe her path to victory is to beat Donald Trump at immigration. She needs to beat him at the border. That is his whole campaign, is the border, it's Afghanistan, it's the economy. If she wins those 3 things, if she hammers him on his points and then sprinkles in reproductive rights and the civil rights stuff on top of it, it is like game, set, match.